Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Blade Master 3rd spec, also known as the Spectral Blade. So the 3rd spec of Blade Master is extremely strong. It deals more damage than the other 2 specs by quite a long shot. And for PvE content, it is clearly the better spec. So if you were playing the Spirit Sword or the Singing Blade, I highly recommend you to switch and play the Spectral Blade just because it deals so much more damage. However, again, no one's really stopping you from playing the other 2 specs. It's just that the Spectral Blade is just very strong compared to the other 2 specs. For PvP, Singing Blade is still preferred, however you can mess around with Spectral Blade if you want. So now it's the second most asked question that I get is, how do I stop the Blade Mentor from lecturing me? So let me just hide my webcam and I'll show you what I mean. So you can see here that I did a short parse on General Moyon, took me 5 minutes and 21 seconds, and I do 511,000 damage. But you can see throughout this entire time the Blade Mentor just wouldn't shush. She's just like,
hey, listen, look, watch out,
blah blah. So how do you make this disappear? So in order to make the Blade Mentor text disappear, you simply click on chat tab options. So you'll come up with all these options. You click on NPC speech, you enable it, press apply, and then you disable it and press apply again. And then voila, then she won't talk anymore. So now let's talk about our point allocation for our home moon points. You want to put 5 points into Falling Stars. Falling Stars is right mouse button when you press tab twice. So this is your burst spec. When you're in your burst mode, your right mouse button turns from slice into Falling Stars and you deal extra damage. So this is your bread and butter for your burst. Next is your slice. This is just when you're in your regular stance, when you just press tab once. This is your regular right mouse button. You'll be casting a lot of slices as well. And finally, sword fall is also one of your main skills that you want to allocate your points in. So it's going to be Falling Stars, Slice, and Sword Fall. However, if you have a Soul Burn in your party, then it'll be Awaken Falling Stars, then Awaken Slice, and Sword Fall. That will be your point allocation. As for your skills over here, you just want everything on one. So there's a lot of questions on whether you should use Starcross, Lucky Stars, or Blade Mentor. So I was considering using Lucky Stars, however the issue with Lucky Stars is the cooldown. So let's first take a look at Starcross over here. So you press tab once, and you press tab again to go into the Starcross thing. So once you're in Starcross, you'll notice that there is a 60-second cooldown. And now let's go to Lucky Stars. So now I'm going to press tab again to go into Lucky Stars. And you'll notice that there's a 3-minute cooldown. Sure, it gives you this bubble that gives you 8 seconds of immortality, which is very nice, but the cooldown is 3 times as much as the other one, which is why I prefer Starcross. Another thing that I really like about Starcross is over here. Resist damage and status effects for 3 times for 5 seconds. So now instead of using our regular openers that we're used to on Blade Master, which is usually we press 1, we home moon block, and then we 2, and then we get in, and then we do our regular rotation, you can simply just press tab twice and go in. And you don't need to use your home moon block at the very beginning of the fight because it gives you that resistance and it also gives you the burst damage. So you're doing more damage and you're also immune to any openers or any CCs that the boss may have at the very beginning of the rotation, which is very useful. And that is why I prefer Starcrossed over Lucky Stars. I never use Blade Mentor because this seems to be like a PvP thing. I don't really see myself stunning the enemy and dealing 3000% damage. To me, it's not very important. It's more important to be able to iframe while attacking and protect myself so I can continue tanking. There are a few skills that I also recommend to disable. So when you press K, you click on the talents thing and then you untick view enhanceable skills. And so Perseverance, I highly recommend to disable this, mainly because you're constantly pressing 4 in order to use your lightning draw to increase your crit chance, and especially if you have it in a macro, you don't want to press Perseverance by accident when you do get knocked down. So I always disable Perseverance. Another skill that you want to disable is Take Flight, which is your airborne or your knock up, mainly because you do press F quite often in order to do your main damage or sword fall. So you want to disable Take Flight so you don't accidentally airborne the enemy. And you can also disable Cyclone if you want. I disable Cyclone because I don't want to accidentally cast Cyclone when I actually want to do Blade Storm in order to reduce the cooldown of my F. So these are the 3 skills that I always disable. So when you are in your blade swarm, or I call a flock of blades, basically when you press 1, which is deflect, you get these 2 spinning swords. They'll block any frontal attack, any yellow attack for 6 seconds. And is really useful. There's a 16-second cooldown, however it starts ticking the moment you activate the skill, so it's really only 10 seconds downtime. And this ability is extremely strong because of its ability to block any yellow attack for 6 seconds. There are certain cheese methods which you can use this. For example, on Brood Chamber, you can use this passive block to actually block orbs. You can also use this in Hive Queen. Whenever Hive Queen does her pulse, the passive block will also block that so you don't get knocked down or knocked backwards, which is very nice. So this ability is extremely strong. I basically use it whenever I can, just in the middle of a rotation when I know, oh, the boss is going to do some really annoying yellow attack, blockable attack. Instead, I'll just cast that, so there's 6 seconds of auto block, and I can continue to DPS to increase my DPS uptime. So next up, let's talk about rotation. Rotation is very nice on the 3rd Spec Blade Master because we don't need to stance change. The issue with the Singing Blade and the Spirit Sword was in order to CC you needed to stance change. However, now with the Spectral Blade, when you're in Flock of Blades, you can still KD with your Ankle Biter. However, keep in mind, if you want to stun, you'll still need to go into basic stance to use your boot. So what you have to get used to is when you're KDing, you simply press 3. However, when you need to stun, you need to press Z to close the Flock of Blades and then press X in order to use your boot, and that's your only stun. However, you also get a Z, which is your Soaring Falcon, which is also a KD. And another thing you need to keep in mind is that your 3 over here, Ankle Biter, this does not require target when you're in basic stance. However, if you are in Flock of Blades, your KD becomes a 16-meter range, but it requires a target. So let's say I'm in Flock of Blades and I look away from the target, I'm unable to use Ankle Biter. So this is very important for certain dungeons, such as Twilight Temple Boss 1, if you are doing rescuing. So now let's talk about rotation. So your rotation is quite simple. You're going to press tab twice. You can press 2 to rush into the boss, or you can just walk into it. And then what you want to do is you want to hit right mouse button once, you want to press F, and then you want to press left mouse button X, right mouse button F. So you can macro this, but that is the basic rotation. The main reason why you want to press left mouse button and X is because when you're in tab stance, this lowers the cooldown of your F skill by 2 seconds, and your F skill deals a lot of damage. So your rotation is going to look like this. You're going to press tab, you're going to press tab again, you're going to rush into the boss, right mouse button F, left mouse button X, right mouse button F, and hold down right mouse button. And you're just going to press your left mouse button as well as your X whenever it's off cooldown, and press F whenever it's off cooldown, as it is one of your biggest damage dealers. You also want to press 4 and V whenever you can, mainly because it increases your crit chance and just deals extra damage. So that is your basic rotation. So let's do it faster this time. It's going to look like this. I'm going to go tab, tab, 2, and you're just going to start casting all your spells really fast. You can macro this if you want. You can even add in your 4 and your V into the macro. However, just keep in mind that you do need to be in Flock of Blade stance for this to work. If you do get knocked down or CC'd, the chances of you coming out of Flock of Blades is pretty high, so you're going to need to press tab again before you hold down your macro again. So that is your basic rotation. It's relatively simple. And the nice thing is you don't need to stance change. You can just stay in this stance forever and just keep attacking. So another thing that I want to talk about is your iframes. This class is very nice on iframes because when you press tab twice and you go into your Star Strike, which is your burst mode, you get a couple iframes, as I said before, because we are using the Star Cross Spec, which gives us 3 iframes for 5 seconds, which is very nice. So that is one of your iframes. And then your second iframe is, again, when you're in Flock of Blades, is your C, Guardian Blades. Resist damage and status effects for 2 seconds. The nice thing about Guardian Blades is when you're attacking, and then let's say that you think there's an enemy's going to CC you, even a red attack or yellow attack, you can simply use it. And then whenever you use your right mouse button or your slice skill over here, it decreases the cooldown by 1 second. So basically, if you keep attacking and you know the boss's rotation well enough, you can essentially stand still and basically play like a warden and just brain dead TPS and just time your tab and your C whenever you need iframes. which is extremely nice. And not only do you have your tab and your C as iframes, you also have your Q. Remember, blindside can be used twice, so you can use it there, you get to the other side, you're still in draw stance, and you can press it again and you stay in draw stance. Your slice skill over here also reduces the cooldown of blindside by 1 second every time you use your slice ability. So basically, the more attacks you do, the more iframes you can do as well, because every time you iframe, as long as you keep attacking the boss with your slice or your right mouse button, it keeps lowering the cooldown by 1 second, which is very, very useful. So it makes this class very easy to tank, because you can essentially stand still, and then when you see there's an attack coming, you either press C if you don't want to move. If you want to move, or if you need to move, you press your Q, you blindside, and you're still in your draw stance. So again, you can just keep attacking. So this class just allows you to constantly attack the boss while iframing. And even when you CC, because you can use ankle biter when you're in Flock of Blades or Blade Swarm, which is very, very useful. However, that's not all. You also have your E and your SS. Your E Comet Step allows you to move forward for 8 meters, and it's also a 1 second iframe. Not only that, it gives you 50% movement speed for 8 seconds on use. Your SS, as usual, is the same thing. However, it also gives you 50% movement speed, but for 4 seconds. So this is also an iframe. So you really have a lot of iframes for this spec, which is very, very nice. The only downside for this spec is mobility. You are not very mobile compared to the other two specs. So the Singing Blade, especially if you use Fleet Foot, you could SS like 12 meters and you can just fly around the map, which is very, very nice. Unfortunately, with this spec, you're a lot more immobile compared to that spec. However, you do have a lot of very powerful tools in your kit to just tank the boss very easily. So that covers rotations. For simple mode, on the other hand, you can use simple mode if you want. Simple mode simply casts 2 skills. It only casts your Falling Stars or your Slice, depending if you're in your burst stance or if you're in your regular Flock of Blade stance, and it casts Swordfall whenever it's up. These are the only 3 skills it will cast. It's alright to use simple mode, it's not that big of a deal. However, you will get better results if you do macro, or if you just play it manually just by holding down right mouse button and timing your left mouse button, your X and your F, and just casting your 4 and your V whenever you can. If you are playing on high ping, a macro will deal more damage than casting manually or using simple mode, simply because you will attack faster with a macro. As for how ping dependent this class is, it's not very ping dependent. Even with my ping at 280 ms in-game, I can pull quite a decent amount of damage with the third spec, so it is quite ping friendly. For you players out there who are wondering if this class was ping friendly or not, it is. So much more ping friendly than the fire or the lightning. So now let's talk about gear. Your gear over here is quite simple. You can see here that I maxed out the Battalion bracelet, which is the third spec bracelet. So there's a Starbreaker, the Divinity, and now there's the Battalion. So if you do have your Divinity bracelet or your Starbreaker bracelet, you will need to farm Master Hong tokens in order to get your unrefined Divinity bracelet, or in this case, the unrefined Battalion bracelet, in order to switch over at stage 10. However, let's say you don't want to farm Master Hong and you just want to use a cash option. What you can do is you can either wait for Hong tokens to come on F10 and just buy that. That's what I did because I was very lazy. Or the second method is you can use Ncoin and you can buy the 2 sealing charms and you can seal your bracelet. So let's say you had a Divinity bracelet. If you seal it and open it again, it'll allow you to pick whether you want the Battalion bracelet, the Divinity bracelet, or the Starbreaker bracelet. So that is also another way to get your bracelet if you don't want to farm Master Hong. As for your ring and earring, you want the Black Tower accessory, or if you can get it, you can get the Twilight Temple accessories, and you really want to equip the third spec accessories. You can see over here that I have a stage 3 and a stage 9 ring and earring. However, these are for lightning spec, and just by changing the accessory from a lightning ring to the third spec ring and earring, I gained about 100k TPS, which is very, very insane, considering that both of these accessories are just stage 1. So if you can, do try to pick up your Skybreaker ring and your earring from Black Tower. I was very lucky actually. I got both of these from the dynamic reward. Just by completing Black Tower, I got the 4 boxes. I just opened it and I got both the ring and the earring from it. So that was really nice. As for your necklace, you want to go Prophecy neck. However, my Blade Master is an alt, so I'm not planning to invest in her. So I just decided to just throw a Vortex Temple necklace on her. However, if you do main a Blade Master, you do want to try to get the Prophecy necklace. As for your Mystic Badge, you want the Oscillation Mystic Badge, unless you can get the Eternity Temple Mystic Badge. And finally, the Soul Badge, you can either go Rampart if you're like me and you don't have the pink badge. However, if you do have the pink badge, you do want the fused version. That is called the Escalation Badge, I believe. If it's wrong, I'll put in like a subtitle or something over here, correcting myself. Other than that, the rest is more or less the same. You know, you can go with any belt, you can go with any gloves, and all this jazz is whatever. Soul Shields, you can just stick with Vortex Temple Soul Shields. They're very, very strong already. However, obviously, if you get better Soul Shields, the more damage you'll deal. And that's about it for Blade Master 3rd Spec. There's not much else to cover. If you guys do have any questions, do let me know. But yeah, it's relatively straightforward, relatively easy, and this is a very, very fun class to play. Just keep in mind that in raids, especially in raid scenarios, you do lag a lot. I feel like there's a bug or a glitch or something with the animations. There's just too many particle effects, too much stuff going on, which causes a lot of people to lag, especially getting like FPS drops, especially in raids. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. I'll try my very best to help you out. I've also left in the description below the BNS Academy Discord link. You can go in there and then you can go to the Blade Master section, and there's a ton of people posting lots of guides and posting lots of information regarding the Blade Master 3rd Spec. So if you do have any questions, you can also ask it there. But yeah, if this video helped, I would appreciate a subscribe, as it really does help out my channel. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.
What
can I say except you're welcome? For the heels